Welcome and thanks for coming to share part of your Saturday with us here. And today is Veterans Day, and I think we have a nice program. And I want to thank Mason Pointe for providing us this opportunity to honor all veterans. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the day. And my name is Hank Fisher, and I'm a Navy veteran and a Mason Pointe veteran, or a resident, I should say. I'm both a resident and a veteran. So anyway, again, thanks so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And now I would like to ask Drew Redman, our Executive Director, to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Hank, and good morning, everybody. My name is Drew Redman, and I'm the Executive Director here at Mason Pointe. And I just want to start by saying what an honor it is for us at Mason Pointe to be able to host this year's Veterans Program. It's always wonderful to see so many people. We always fill this room to the back. And it's no surprise because we're all so grateful to all the veterans there who have served our countries and protected America's values. We're eternally grateful for the sacrifices that you all have made and the qualities that you continue to carry with you even beyond your time in military service. It's a great example to all of us in our day-to-day lives, and so thank you all for that. Thank you also to the families of veterans. We know the sacrifices that you have made so that they could fight on behalf of our country. We're also grateful for you as well on this Veterans Day. So thank you all for coming today. Thank you for allowing us at Mason Pointe the opportunity to host this event. And I'm going to turn it over to Beth for an invitation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Excited to see all the red, white, blue out there. So I'm going to lead us in a prayer, so if we can all bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this country and all the freedom that we enjoy. We thank you for those who protect us and guard us, especially our veterans. They took your example, Jesus, and were willing to lay down their lives for us and for our country. They served us and sacrificed for us. Lord, you tell us to honor those in authority, so now we honor these men and women. We celebrate them. We thank you for them. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Thank you very much. Now, we have a program in front of us, and inside there is a Pledge of Allegiance word, in case you have senior moments of time. So why don't we all stand if you're able and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Now, for some couple of years, I've been requesting pictures of veterans in uniform, and I've had limited success with that because don't know where a picture is if they have one, or don't have one at all. So if there are photos of you here, I think we have photos for every veteran that we've identified. We may not have identified every veteran, and we'd like you to tell us so, if that's the case. So I think we'll go on with the presentation of photos. Please let us know if you're a veteran and you're not there, and we'll correct that. I think that's a great job, and I want to thank two people, Nancy Gray in particular, who was persistent in getting pictures when we didn't have them. And as I think I mentioned earlier, the second source of photos was the photo you have on Touchdown. So, and then Beth is the other person who has contributed mightily to this program. So Nancy and Beth did a great job. I'm just standing up here. So you can thank them and you see them around Mason Point. Anyway, I really appreciate you coming. As I said, I only help to coordinate veterans activities here. I want to talk a little bit about those of you that maybe tuned in to local news on, I think it was Tuesday of this week. They had a segment on veterans returning to Lambert from their honor flight. And several of us here have gone on honor flights. And Ken Winkler has gone, Ron Parsman has gone, and Walt May. And what I want to do is encourage you to apply, all of you veterans, to apply to go on an honor flight. There is an application form, and I have had copies of those here before on tables, and hopefully some of you have picked them up. I have a couple of copies with me today, but if I run out, I'll be happy to run a copy and put it in your mailbox. So the honor flight. So what goes on with the honor flight is you leave Lambert very early in the morning. I think the flight's around 6 o'clock. You have breakfast there, and you fly directly to DC, and you get on a bus, and you tour all of the various monuments like World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, etc. And you have lunch, and then you fly back in the evening. So it's a full day, and each veteran has to have a guardian. So this guardian can be a member of your family, your daughter, your son, some in-laws, or even I think Walt had a minister with him. So you will have you are required to have a guardian to be with you throughout the trip. So this honor flight is a non-profit and organization. There is no government funding of that. This is all funded by donations, corporate individuals. So I would encourage you to take advantage of that, particularly if you haven't been to DC and seen the great memorials there to veterans. So again, I have a couple of applications with me, but I'll be happy to put one in your mailbox if you let me know. And by the way, the guardians can be about anybody in your family except your spouse. That's the rules. Spouses are not allowed to be guardians. So keep that in mind when you're submitting your application. So please think about that. And now we're going to have our guest speaker in uniform. I didn't expect this, but Ann Rogers is going to talk to us. She's a retired Air Force colonel, and she has served in many, I guess you can call them adventures in the military. And she happens to be Ken Winkler's daughter. But don't hold that against her, please. Oh, hi, Ken. So, Ann, Ann did, she was commissioned in Reserve Officer Training Corps in Southeast Missouri. And she's gone on to many major commands, Air Force and combatant levels. She's graduated squadron commander, served as an aide-de-camp to the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. She has a lot of military experience, and I'm looking forward to hearing her talk to you. So, Ann, if you're ready, Colonel, retired Colonel, Ann Rogers.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? So this is going to be a little dangerous because I have a tendency to wander. And they have given me a wandering microphone. But I have to stay kind of focused on my notes because with this being on a Saturday, I wasn't expecting technical support to be here. And to the ladies that are here helping put this all together and make this a great morning, thank you. It's your time off and you are spending it with us. We're very appreciative. Before I get started, though, I wanted to tell Hank, thank you very much for having me. It's always an honor to come down here and speak to you all. I do it a lot. I come down a lot. I roam the halls a lot. I eat near your facility a lot. I know Dom pretty good back there. And I've actually been up here before speaking, so I feel like I'm with my family. So I'm going to be a little more relaxed than maybe I probably should have been. Or should be, or was, when I was the aide-de-camp, and my job was to follow a 4-star around with a speech. So I borrowed his notebook. He is now retired also. And in there I have my speech, which somehow or another always takes me to the podium. So when Hank asked me to speak, I said, well, it's Veterans Day, so obviously something about Veterans Day. But a lot of us are veterans. A lot of us have been to many, many, many veterans ceremonies. And so, with due respect, I'm going to start out with just a little 5, 6, 7 minute speech on Veterans Day, Armistice Day, what it means to us, the importance of it, and how we should continue to make this holiday more important than, say, some of the other ones. At that point, then, I'm going to kind of switch gears, which is when I'll probably roam, and talk about my time in the military. Now, obviously, Veterans Day is not just about one vet. It's not about one Air Force vet. It's about all veterans that have served, all walks of life, all the services. And so what you're going to hear is only my perspective. But one of the things that you should take away from today, and that I hope you take away, is the importance of keeping the education of what veterans are, what they've done, what they will need to continue to do to secure our country and have the freedoms that we have all grown very accustomed to. So with that being said, I'm going to start on my little speech, and then I will roll into my background and my history in the Air Force. And I want it to be interactive, first of all, because Hank, where's Hank at? I gotta see Hank. There's Hank, right up front. Hank has given me plenty of time, plenty of time, and asked that we use all the time, because if not, we're not gonna be able to eat. They're not gonna be ready for us. So when I open it up for questions, I truly mean ask away. If I don't know the answer, I was taught very young. I'm not going to try to bamboozle my way around it. I'm going to say, you know, that's a good one. I don't know, but I'm going to get the answer for you and I'm going to bring it back to you. So when we get to the question and answers, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. So with that being said, 70 years ago, one distinguished veteran, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, presented the nation's highest military award to another distinguished veteran, a hero of 2 wars. Hiroshi Miyamura was the son of a Japanese immigrant and a proud resident of Gallup, New Mexico. After serving with the famed Al-Nisi Infantry Battalion in World War II, Corporal Miyamura was recalled to active duty as a machine gunner in the Korean War. When his unit came under attack by the Chinese forces near the Imajin River in 1951, Miyamura is estimated to have killed more than 50 enemy soldiers. Despite his own serious injuries, Miyamura refused to abandon his wounded comrade, Joe Anello. He carried him even after both were captured. When his captors threatened to shoot Miyamura if he did not drop Anello, his wounded friend convinced him to listen. The enemy showed no mercy, as a severely wounded Miyamura and his fellow POWs were forced to march 300 miles with little food over a 5-week period. Through indomitable will, Miyamura survived his 28 months of captivity. Miraculously, so did Anello. The battlefield actions that led to Miyamura's Medal of Honor were initially classified top secret by officials who feared that the enemy might retaliate against him if they had known the extent of the harm that he inflicted on their forces. On November 29, 2022, Hiroshi Miyamura passed away. He was 97. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the types of heroes America continues to produce. In many ways, humble at home, but ferociously brave on the battlefield. Another Medal of Honor recipient, retired Marine Colonel Barney Barnum, described the combat that he saw in 1965 at Operation Harvest Moon. Quote, "We came together as a team, and you know, there's no fury unleashed that's greater than that bunch of Marines that know their buddies have been shot," unquote. On July 29, 2023, Colonel Barnum attended the christening of a future destroyer, the USS Harvey C. Barnum, Jr., an appropriate honor for an American hero. Most Americans profess to truly love our veterans, especially at gatherings like this on Veterans Day and Memorial Day. And while their feelings are sincere, it is important to remember that veterans are defending us 365 days a year. The heroism that has been demonstrated time and time again by veterans from the American Revolution all the way to the global war on terrorism is sometimes unnoticed by many who enjoy the security that their sacrifices have provided. Not all veterans have seen combat, but all have at one time made the solemn promise to sacrifice their lives for this country, if called upon. Without the formidable strength that veterans have demonstrated at war, Americans would never enjoy their daily freedoms. It was none other than George Washington who said, quote, "To be prepared for war is one of the most effective means of preserving peace," end quote. For many veterans, our nation was important enough to endure long separations from their families, miss the births of their children, freeze in sub-zero temperatures, roast in far-away deserts, lose limbs, and far too often lose their lives. Their families sacrificed as well. Military spouses have had to endure career interruptions, frequent changes of address, and a disproportionate share of parental responsibilities. The children often have to deal with changing the schools, separation from friends, and hardest of all, the uncertainty of whether or not mom or dad will live through their next combat tour. Veterans need each other, but more importantly, our country needs our veterans. You cannot fight a war without veterans, and while the utopian idea of society without war is appealing, let us not forget that wars have liberated slaves, stopped genocide, and toppled terrorists. Stephen Ambrose once wrote, "America's wars have been like rungs on a ladder by which it rose to greatness. No other country has triumphed so long, so consistently, on such a vast scale through force of arms," unquote. It has often been said that without our veterans, Americans might be speaking Russian, German, or perhaps Japanese. Regardless of which view of alternative history you take, we do know that without our veterans, America, as we know it, would not be America. Veterans Day, originally known as Armistice Day, commemorates the armistice of November 11th, 1918, which marked the end of World War I. Since then, this day has evolved to recognize and honor all veterans from every generation who have served in the armed forces of the greatest nation on earth. In times of peace and in times of war, our veterans have exemplified the values of honor, courage, and commitment. They have displayed an unwavering dedication to their fellow service members, their brothers and sisters in arms, and their love for this country is proven. But Veterans Day is not just a day of celebration and remembrance. It is a day of action. It is a day when we must recommit ourselves to the well-being of veterans and their families. We need to remind the public that more than 6,000 veterans a year take their own lives. We should all commit to be the one to save the one. 988 is the crisis line. It's available to anyone who is contemplating such a heartbreaking and tragic outcome. In this uncertainty and division, it is our veterans who serve as a unifying force. They come from all walks of life, representing the rich tapestry of our nation. Yet when they put on the uniform, this uniform, they become an even greater power, the embodiment of the American spirit. Our debt to these heroes can never be repaid, but our gratitude and respect must last forever. We must ensure our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren continue to understand and advocate for our veterans. Yesterday, my father and I attended a ceremony at Hannah Elementary School. The quality of this ceremony was remarkably good. Awesome job of educating the 1st through 5th graders on what it truly meant to be a vet. We received a couple letters at our table, and I wanted to take a moment and read them to you. Dear veteran, thank you for sacrificing your life for us and for risking your life for St. Louis. We are so glad that you did all of the fighting for us. You are a hero. We appreciate the service. You are so kind and caring. Sincerely, Iman. 2nd grade. Okay? One more. Thank you, hero. Dear veteran, thank you for serving in the Navy, U.S. Army, and Air Force. I appreciate you risking your life to make our country a better place to live. I love you that you are saving lives every day. Thank you for serving our country. Happy Veterans Day. Sincerely, Natalie, 3rd grade. We have seen history be covered up, taken down, and purposely left out of educational curriculum. What happens if we ignore the past? It repeats itself. I am very proud of the educators at that elementary school, that they are embracing the meaning and importance of the veterans and letting their children know what it takes and what sacrifices are needed to keep the country free. We're here today in a room full of vets from all services, all walks of life, different careers, different wars. Some supported the sky, others the sea, ground, but with one simple mission: keep our country safe. And so if you'll take a moment and appease me, would all the vets please, if you're able to, stand up. Don't rush. Take your time. No injuries, but if all the vets in this room would please stand up. About 10% of every vet is a female, almost appropriate in the Mason Pointe numbers. Thank you for your service and your continued support of the veterans and active duty military today. So I appreciate the opportunity. That kind of concludes my official remarks. And I think what I want to point out is throughout that presentation or speech was a thread about making sure we remember, making sure the lineage remembers, the children, grandchildren, like I said. Because once they forget what has been done, what we received by doing it, freedom of speech, freedom to roam freely in our country, to choose what education, to choose what religion. Those are all things that other countries that are not the most powerful military in the world are subjected to. So with that, again, I foot stomp the importance of all of us keeping the meaning and the support for our veterans. Well, about 12 hours ago, I was not able to get into this uniform. It was too big, it was falling off, and two wonderful Mary and Hank made sure I got into the hook and crook, and they stitched me up, and I am good to go. Because had I had to put this on without her assistance with this, it would probably be over there along with the water. So, thank you, Mary, for allowing me to put on this uniform that I have not had on since 2014. So it's been a while, and it feels okay. I was out at 6 a.m. this morning at Chinook looking for nylons. It's been a long time since I put this on. But let me tell you a little bit about me. We passed out what in the military we call our official biography. So you have a copy of that you can follow along, take home, use as kindling, what have you. But obviously, long time. 27 years, approximately. I think it was 26 years, 11 months, 27 days. It's kind of how the military is. They're very precise. My background is I came in as a personnel officer. And a personnel officer touches every military member's life at some point in time during their career. We are cradle to grave. We recruit you. We bring you in. We train you. We put you on active duty or reserves or guard. We train you. And then we send you off to a base that we are responsible for putting together. So personnel in the everyday Air Force can be good if you give someone an assignment they want. It can go wrong if their spouse isn't happy with where they're going. It can go really wrong when they get a 12-month remote tour to the desert with about 35 days of notice, which happens quite often. So again, in the presentation we talked about the resolution of vets and also our military. They are unwavering when assignments come down. When orders come, they go. They have choices, but most of them opt to go. We talked about the separations. We cause a lot of that as a personnel officer. When we go to war, you know, we don't go into a country and look at that. Well, there's an Air Force base for us to use. It doesn't happen that way. It's a piece of land, and that land has got to be made ready for those C-130s that are getting ready to come across the pond and drop off 3,000 troops, 3,000 crates, tanks, planes. It's amazing. It is an amazing ordeal to watch transpire. So how do you get the chow hall? How does that happen? That's us. Our combat mission is called PERSCO. And we drop boxes in, they break apart, and we build a kitchen. Because what's the first thing that 300 hungry Marines want when they're done with battle? They want to eat. We're responsible. What do 300 Marines do after they eat? Typically, restroom, sleep. We were responsible for setting up the latrines, the tents, anything that had to do with existing and living. Mail's important. We still have bills when we're in the desert. All that, the APOs, the post offices are all run by us. So master of all, or jack of all, master of a few maybe. Our field is so large and encompassing that it takes a squadron of personnel officers to build a bare base. And what I'm talking about when I say build a bare base, we go back to dropping the crate, it pops open, and you got your airmen. And I'm going to tell you a funny story. So here we are in the middle of somewhere in Afghanistan. Planes are coming over, and I got my little crew out there, my 6-person team that goes into survey, because you got to know where to put the latrines, right? Most countries have wind. So I've sent all my little fellas out to go do their little work, come back to me, and I'm sitting there with the general, and my little airman comes in and says, ma'am, I got a plan. I know where we're putting the kitchen, I know where the lat's going, I know where the tents are going. I said, lay it out for me. And he lays it out for me, and I said, why is the lavatory there? Well, it's close. They can eat, they can hang a right, go to the restroom, and then head down to the tent to go sleep. Of course, the general by this time is chuckling, looking at me like, you can handle this. And I said, come on, let's take a walk. I said, so you want to eat here? And you want to go over here and do your business. And then over here to go to bed. So which way is the wind blowing? Well, doesn't that change? He says to me, and I said, not today. And so we switched it around, but as simple as the flow of the wind can make a deployment very, very nasty. So, needless to say, we placed the tents appropriately, the chow hall, and the latrines, and everybody had a nice deployment in Afghanistan. So, I started off in security forces, and so personnel officers can be assigned to any unit, any command. You'll see in my biography a lot of my time was joint, which meant I didn't do a lot of blue time, only Air Force, and only Air Force bases. I was at STRATCOM, I was at CENTCOM, I was at EUCOM. Those are all European Command, Strategic Command, Central Command. It takes all 4 services, plus our constituents in the Reserve and the Guard, to win a war, to actually execute and even plan for one. So working at the joint environment, one of the things that it brought to me was we are not only the most powerful military in the world, but we have the most powerful Army, the most powerful Air Force, the most powerful Marines, and the most powerful Navy, and the most powerful Coast Guard. Because without one of those, it's like spokes on a wheel. If you take away a spoke, what happens to that wheel? It goes clunk, 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 clunk. Each service is a spoke in that wheel. And with all of us joined together as a team, we can win. We win. We win big time. When we leave out one of those services or what they bring to the fight, we cannot achieve victory. You have to have the carriers. You have to have the aircraft. You have to have the boots on ground. You cannot win a war without all four services, and we are the most powerful country with the most powerful military. And there's a reason for it. It goes back to the quality of men and women that mothers and fathers give to us to take care of. And that was my job. I was the one to make sure that mom and dad's son or daughter was clothed, fed, educated, armed when necessary, but overall kept healthy and safe. And we did a good job of it. But there's always those times when things don't work quite right. So here I am, brand new second lieutenant. I've been in about 3 weeks and I'm assigned to security forces in Blytheville, Arkansas. And security forces work 3 shifts, swings, mids, and days. And the rule was put out by the wing commander, who at that time, as me as second lieutenant, was a colonel. And in my eyes, you know, the rule was once you got off your shift, you took your 8 hours of sleep before you took off for your weekend. Because your weekend could be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It could be a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But these guys would sleep, work, sleep, work. But when it came time to leave, the rule was you did not leave the base until you had 8 hours of rest for a reason. Well, of course, we had one young buck that didn't follow the rules. And he tossed his gear in the back of his truck at 5:30 in the morning and headed down to Kentucky. He didn't make it that far. He ended up falling asleep at the wheel, which is why that rule was in place. And he ended up hitting an 18-wheeler that was stalled on the side of the road. So the next thing I know, I'm in my office trying to learn my job, and my major comes in and says, we gotta go. We had a death and we have to notify the parents. So 21 years old, fresh out of college, barely able to put on my uniform correctly, I am heading down to notify mom and dad about their son. That's one of the ones that, you know, those are the tough ones, but he made me go, and he told me, he says, you're gonna do this, and I'm gonna teach you right, I'm gonna teach you correctly, and it gives me goosebumps today because I can still see Major Foster and I talking with the parents. And I used every inch that he taught me over and over again to minimize the pain and the grief and try to bring something to a horrific situation. Which leads me to training. On-the-job training is very beneficial, but one of the things our military does in our country is famous for is making sure that your service members are trained and they have the things that they need. When they don't, they cannot do their jobs. And when they don't have the things they need and they can't do their jobs, we lose lives. And we've lost lives, don't misunderstand me, but our numbers are minimal compared to some other countries, some other wars, and a lot of it goes back to funding and providing the necessary training. I was fortunate throughout my career to get picked up several times, and you can see the dates in the biography, to attend additional training. And when you get to become a little more senior in the ranks, your trainings aren't 6 weeks or 8 weeks or even 12 weeks. Your trainings are a move. I moved for 10 months schools. I moved for 12 months school. So the military paid me to move and to go to school full time because they felt it was important enough for me to know and be able to do my job at the level I was able to do it at. Most corporate and civilian companies do not understand the payback and the return on the investment in training. And I will tell you as taxpayers, and I am a taxpayer now, that we are good stewards with the taxpayers' money when it comes to the military and its usage. We are good stewards with who we select to go to training and what we train them on and what we spend on them to get trained. But again, we would not be as safe and as free as we are had we not made those initial investments into our youth and our new airmen and officers that come into the military. And once you're trained, doesn't mean you're done. The military's proven that as the years go on and as you get more experience under your belt, more time, more understanding, knowledge, it's even more appropriate to continue to advance your education and training. And they base those slots on your ability to, your future ability, what you are going to do in the future, not what you've done in the past. Everybody has done good things. Everybody does good things, but it's what is your capability? If we see you're capable of running a squadron or running a unit or, being the top captain on the cruiser, you're going to be the one that gets selected to go to training. And from that training, you typically will receive a promotion because they see the future and what you can bring to the table. From there, my career kind of took off. I left security forces and I did a stint over in Korea for a year. I came back and kind of funny, I was supposed to, I was going into ROTC. I was selected to teach ROTC. And so my #1 choice was University of South Florida. So 0-1, South Florida, 1-0, Baylor. If you look at the program, I ended at Baylor. Somehow or another, a personnel officer got my numbers inverted. It was probably one of the best experiences I had. Of course, I was at Baylor when they didn't have a football team. I was at Baylor as a faculty member that had to go to the football games. But I was the first female Air Force ROTC instructor at Baylor, so that was kind of interesting. And we were provided all the amenities as a full-fledged staff member. So Baylor was interesting. And you say, well, I wonder why she picked that one out. Because that's where my career basically took off. And sometimes when you're a number, as a second lieutenant or a first lieutenant or even a captain, you need to have something lift you. Right place at the right time. Just one of those. Well, here I was down at Baylor. My father had lost my mom and was traveling down to come to some of these wonderful football games with me that I encouraged him to. And we were down there for a military ball, and he joined me and met General Chuck Boyd. And General Chuck Boyd is a retired 4-star. He's subsequently passed away last year. He was the first 4-star that I was fortunate enough to work for. And how did that happen? Well, that was a good question. About the same time Chuck Boyd came down to speak to us at Baylor and met my father, he had also lost his spouse. And so the two of them became in conversation, so on and so forth. Next thing I know, I have an assignment out of the blue to Stuttgart, Germany, to work for General Chuck Boyd. Chuck Boyd was he was the longest sitting POW in the Hanoi Hilton. He was the only Vietnam POW to reach the rank of 4 stars, and probably one of the most brilliant men I've ever met. Two things that I'll always remind me when I think of Chuck Boyd is one day I went into his office and I was working protocol for him, so all his speeches, all his engagements, all the travel. And I have a tendency to, I sit and I move my leg, whatever. I happened to be flipping keys. I just had a set of keys in my hand. So I was standing there talking to him, and the next thing I know, an arm reached out and grabbed those keys and said, please don't do that. It reminds me of when the guards came down the hallway. Right? So then, you know, you gotta understand when you work for a 4-star and as closely as we work as their aides or their protocol officers, they become like parents to you. So all excited one day, a bunch of us kids, you know, a couple second lieutenants and captains had found a place to go camping in Germany. All excited. I come running in. General Boy says, how you doing? What are you doing this week? You got big plans? I said, hey, sir, you want to go camping? We're going camping in Ober Ammergau. He got it. He looks up and says, I will never spend another night on the floor. Or not in a bed. One of the two. And it made sense. It was those things, though, that when he would speak and we would talk, it was heart-wrenching for me. Because here I am in the presence of someone that literally spent over 7 years in confinement at the Hanoi Hilton. And again, the minds of these 4-stars are amazing. So again, thanks to General Winkler over there, he pretty much gave my career its takeoff. So from Stuttgart, I ended up with an assignment at the Pentagon. I was sitting in my office in the Pentagon. I had been given an extra duty to go into public affairs, which is putting you out in front of the media and speaking. And somehow or another, somebody had seen me, and here I was now being cross-trained into public affairs, kind of against my wills, because I like to talk, but I don't like to talk to the media. You know, a lot of times you don't get all the facts straight, and they get persecuted. I just kind of liked feeding my guys. You know, I'm good where I'm at. Well, I was only there about 6 weeks, and the phone rang. And it was a secretary from General Ralston's office. She says, is this Captain Winkler? I said, yes. And she says, you have an interview tomorrow at Pentagon Room 5E, wing. Excuse me? Ma'am, I think you have the wrong number. Is this Captain Ann Winkler? Yes, ma'am, it is, except I have no interview. I have a job. I have no idea what you're talking about. She goes, you have an interview with General Ralston at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Make sure you wear your blues. And she hung up. Well, I don't know who General Ralston is. I don't know where this interview is, so I go to my boss. And I said, Colonel Matt, I said, I guess this call from some lady named Mary from General, he goes, Mary from General Ralston's office? I go, how does everybody know this Mary from General Ralston's office? So needless to say, he did the background, and so the story goes, General Ralston was playing golf with General Boyd and General Jamerson, who were both 4-stars I was working with in Stuttgart. And General Ralston says, well, I gotta get an aide. I need a new aide. She's pregnant, can't travel. And I gotta find somebody that can do this. And both of them go, Captain Ann Winkler, that's your girl. So here it is, like 4 o'clock that day. And he's like, my boss goes, you got your uniform ready? I go, I don't know, we were wearing BDUs. So I had to run home, put a uniform together to be ready for the next morning. So 0 time. I have no idea what he does. I'm not even sure what the joint chairmans do at this point in time. I just know they're very important, lots of stars. So here I go into this interview. And Hank, you think you were worried about me showing up and talking. I had no idea what I was going to say, what he was going to ask, what I was supposed to do. So he asked me about me and told me a little bit about my background. And apparently the one thing that got me hired, because they have to interview from every service, because they're joint. So it could be an Air Force General Chairman with a Marine aide, or it could be an Air Force General Vice Chairman with an Air Force aide. So he had all these other interviews scheduled with an Army Major and a Marine. And he says to me, he says, so what do you think this job entails? Whereas in my mind, I'm thinking, I have no earthly idea. I have no clue. And I said to him one line. I said, I believe my job will be to do whatever I can do for you so that you can focus on your job. One line. He put his notes down. He said, so tell me about your family. And we chatted for another hour, and I left and got back to the office. Of course, everybody said, did you get it? Did you? I don't know. Wasn't very long. What did he ask you? He asked me what I thought the job was, and this is what I told him. And now I go, you blew it, Captain. I go, that's all right. I like where I'm at. Well, 2 hours later, I got a call, and I was in the bottom of the Pentagon getting 2 passports. The following day at 2 a.m., we took off out of Bowling Air Force Base, and we headed down to Colombia, the country of Colombia. Here I am on a training trip in the back of an up-armored expedition, motorcycles on the side of us with machine guns, rolling through Colombia, Bogota, Colombia. And I'm thinking to myself, what have you gotten yourself into? Well, about a year and a half later, 256 days on the road, 83 countries, dinners with ambassadors, holiday functions with the A-team. That was my job. So, one thing I will tell you about the 4 stars that we have in our military is they are the smartest, some of the smartest men and women now. Before that, when I retired, there hadn't been an appointed one. But they are some of the smartest people that you can surround yourself with. Their minds are amazing. We would be going into a country, and I would have the books that were prepared for by, like the Secret Service. It was all the insides on the military and that, the foreign military DVs. Pages and pages, and I'm talking about a 10, 12, 14-hour flight on a G5, so he'd sleep, and I'd sit there and I'd read. I was like, wow, this guy did this? Hours and hours it would take me to read those 3 or 4 trip books. He would wake up when he heard the wheels go down. He'd say, yeah, Winkler, give me my book. And I'd hand him his book, and from the time those wheels came down and the time we had landed, he had flipped through those pages, put the book down, handed it back to me, and went into those interviews and knew everything that was in that book that took me 14 hours to learn. And I am not kidding. Amazing levels of intelligence. From there, I did several command tours, and command is just what it says, command. You have all these little eyes looking up at you, trusting in you to lead them and keep them safe. And probably one of the most rewarding was my last command as a colonel. I was in charge of Seymour Johnson, home of 95 F-15s. I was a support group commander as a non-rated officer. Rated officers fly airplanes. Non-rated officers don't. Personnel officer, non-rated. F-15 base, highly rated base. So I was the first non-rated officer to assume command. And when you assume command of a group, I had the support group. I owned the cops, the engineers, the money, the comptroller, security forces, and contracts. So we had major effects on the war just from being stateside in Seymour Johnson. Our F-15s were called over, and to watch 95 F-15s take off in about 45 minutes is amazing. We were home to the largest air show. The air shows occur every 2 years for a reason. It takes 2 years to plan another one. You get done with one and you start planning the other one. We had major reconstruction projects that I was in charge of and provided oversight. Millions and millions of dollars in purchasing and equipment and real estate and buildings that fell under the contract management. And there were 2 things in my entire career that spanned I never wanted to be on TV because money was mismanaged by a contractor. And then there was one other one I'll talk about in the end. And so we managed millions and billions of dollars in infrastructure, in aircraft, in flight line. I learned about concrete. I learned that, you know, you can cure concrete in 24 hours if all these things happen. You know what you do when you have to repair a flight line? Because you do. I mean, those planes are coming down and they're taking chunks out of it. As soon as we shut down our flight lines, we were sitting target. And there's 95 F-15s. And there's only about 200 and something in our arsenal. So you don't want to be on a base that doesn't have access to get those planes away. So we had to do this construction project in pieces to ensure that one side could still fly, fight, and win, and the other side could be repaired. So the things that you learn when you spend time in the military, and how does that portray back to your civilian life? It's the knowledge that you can bring to the table. You are jack of all trades, not necessarily master of any, pretty talented when it comes to certain things. And so the group command gave me that experience. Okay, so one of the last things I'm going to tell you about was, how am I doing on time?
Fine.
Fine.
And
What time is it?
it's, you're okay on 10:30.
Oh, you're killing me. I'm supposed to speak till 11?
No, you don't, no, you're fine.
Oh, good. Good, because I'm running out of stories.
You're
But
good.
I got 5 more minutes.
That's fine.
All right, so let me pick a good one. Think I should do the Strom Thurmond one?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so there is a reason for term limits. Does everybody agree with me? Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to share a personal one, and this does not go to the media. So, as I told you, I went to work for General Joe Ralston, and every Christmas, the chairman had an open house. And it was, the chairman and vice chairman held it. The 2 aides, you know, were the ones behind him going, that's Ken Winkler. That's Walter May. That's Hank, and his wife's name's Mary. So they, hi, Hank and Mary. And Hank and Mary are like, well, he remembered us. So we had 3 sessions, you know, like from, I don't know, 12 to 2, 3 to 5, 7 to 9, something like that. And I'm talking the hors d'oeuvres, and I mean, Sandra Day O'Connell came, previous sitting presidents would stroll in. I mean, this was truly the A-list of DC. And so in between, you know, here's all the staff, you know, vacuuming, refreshing the dipped strawberries and making sure all the prawns are set nicely. And so that's what we did. So here, you know, I'm over there with a photographer, and we're cleaning something up, and General Hugh Shelton, who was the chairman, says, Ann, you need to go down and get Strom Thurmond. I said, excuse me? Yeah, his driver's down there. He's going to let him off at the end of the driveway. Do you mind going out there and getting him? I said, no, not at all, sir. Whatever you want me to do. So I walked down there, and I turn around, and there's a big picture window, kind of like back there at the house. And I see these 2 4-stars, like, chuckling. And I'm like, how off I go? So, of course, I open the door, and here comes Strom Thurmond at 91. 91. So here we go. Come on, sir. I'll take you up there. He said, who are you? I said, I'm General Ralston's aide. Who now? I said, I'm General Ralston's aide. He said, well, you're sure am I pretty? And I said, well, come on, let's get you up there. Getting a little uncomfortable. You know, I got a Ziploc bag of Maalox and all his meds and all that. And I'm just loving this driver because he's 30 minutes early. So we start strolling up there, and in the end, as we're walking up, he says, so, you like working for Joe Ralston? I said, I love it. Brilliant man, great travel, we have a lot of fun. He says, so you're a lady of the eve, a lady of the night. I said, no, sir, I'm an aide de camp. About that time, I look over at that window, and the look on my face is, oh, I'm gonna get you too. You set me up. So needless to say, it gets better. And it'll use your last 3.5 minutes, Hank. One of the hors d'oeuvres section was a great big huge Joint Chiefs Eagle styrofoam, dipped in chocolate, up there, very nice, with 2 little bowls of pre-done strawberries for you. Yeah, just take one of those. So I bring him in, and the general say, we're good, Carolyn's gonna take care of the names, why don't you just stay with him for the function? And all of a sudden, the photographer's right there. And everywhere I went was Strong. She was right there to get a picture. And I'm looking at these two like, I am really not happy about this, but I'm doing what I gotta do. So finally, I spot this table, and there's one chair on each side of it, and I'm like, perfect. Let me sit this man down with his prawns and what have you, and by the time he gets done eating, it'll be time to walk him back to the car. Good day. What's he do? He decides he wants a hunk of chocolate. And he takes the corner of that styrofoam eagle. And he starts to try to break it. And of course, the photographer's getting ready to drop her camera. I'm coming across the chair. Because we have another session after this. We can't have an eagle with half a wing bitten out of it. Needless to say, we saved the wing, we saved the hors d'oeuvres, and we got Strong back home safely. And the next time we visited him was we were having a meeting to get the Joint Strike Fighter approved. And General Ralston is going all over his nice little package of notes, all prepared by me. And all of a sudden I hit him on the knees. I'm like, and there's Strong. I go, what do we do? He goes, let's leave. And so we got up and left. So ladies and gentlemen, that's all I really have. I mean, I have so much more. You cannot put 27 years into even Hank's hour. But I probably don't have time for questions, but hopefully we do. We do, good. But again, I want to thank everybody that's helped put this together. Hank, amazing again. You always do such a fine job. So the ladies that came in on Saturday to make sure we're here. Drew, for you being here. Thanks for what you do for all these lovely people that we have here, our residents, our family, our friends. And thanks for making my Veterans Day really nice. Because I usually don't like doing these because somebody's going to say someone accurate. I didn't say Miyamura's name right. You don't have an earring on, whatever. Here, I feel like I'm with my family, so ask away. Like I said, if I don't know any of the answers to your questions, I'll get you in the end. I'll get back to you. But again, thank you, everyone. Thank you to the vets. And keep pushing. I have one question already, Hank.
What led you into the military?
What led me into the military? Well, I'd like to lie and say my dad pushed me out the front door, but he didn't. Actually, we come from a very military background, family background. And the boys were all set to go off to Annapolis. I went up and visited. I kind of got a little bit of the itch, but I still wasn't sure. He allowed me to take my time. I went to school for a semester, and then the second semester, I joined ROTC. What kept me after 4 years was the camaraderie. And following that, most people say, what's the one thing you miss the most after you retire? And it's the people. It really is. It's the quality of people that we have in our services, that when you're working with them, traveling with them, it's kind of like here, and I see it a lot here. You take care of each other. You don't want somebody else to fall or falter. You want to be the ones that make it through that finish line together. And so the people are one of the things I miss the most. And what drove me was, I guess, in the end, it's just a little bit of that patriotism that I had that kind of boiled up after I experienced my brothers at the Naval Academy. It was something I wanted to try, but I knew the Navy wasn't for me. I knew the Army wasn't. I wouldn't have been able to make it through to be a Marine. So the Air Force worked out well. And like I said, all services have a different mission, and this one was most suited for me.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Ann, for a great personal account. I think you would have made the Navy.
I should have told my shark story. I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I was swimming with the sharks.
Just another, I want to mention again, I'm on this KIT, I guess, honor flights. So don't forget, I think you would enjoy an honor flight. I mentioned the honor flight participants that we had in the last year, Walt May, Ken Winkler, and Ron Horstman. And our speaker today was one of those guardians, guardian to her father, Ken. So if you want to know how guardians work, you can talk to our speaker, Ann. And if you want to learn more about the honor flight itself, there's 3 guys who have done this within the last year. And I would encourage you to at least consider it. I want to mention one thing and then hit on a little bit, but Veterans Day was formerly called Armistice Day. And it was recognizing that the armistice that ended hostilities in World War I was signed on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And today, or tomorrow, or today actually is the 11th day of the 11th month. So Armistice Day was originally to honor primarily the veterans of World War I. And in 1954, Congress changed the name of Veterans Day to the name of Armistice Day to Veterans Day, and to honor all veterans. And that's how we arrived at Veterans Day. So thank you all. And now we're going to hear from our great, exceptional, entertaining, and expanded recently by more members, our Mason Pointe Senior Choir, under the guidance of our director, who's been, she easy on you guys or hard on you guys? She's probably pretty hard on you guys. But anyway, thank you so much, and here is Kelly Abrams to lead the choir.
The Army is first, and it's a short introduction. So if you're in the Army, I would start getting ready to get up. Because it goes quick. No, it's just really short, and Suzanne is fast.
Over hill, over dale, we will hit the dusty trail. Caissons go rolling along. In and out, hear them shout, counter march and right about, and the caissons go rolling along. And it's fly high in the
who are also veterans who stood for everything. Would you guys raise your hand, please? We would like to conclude this morning with the singing of the national anthem. So for those of you who would like to join along and are comfortable standing, please feel free to do so at this time.
Thank you so much, choir, and don't they look good up there? And sing well, too. I want to thank again Beth and Nancy for putting this all together. And I just talked about it. They did all the work and the whole program. So, and it's Saturday also, so they'll be on Saturday. And you know, and all of you spent part of your Saturday with us, and I think that's just great in honoring Veterans Day. So today is Veterans Day. Next month we're going to have a speaker talk to us about veterans benefits in general, and specifically about the PACT Act, and that's a fairly new veterans benefit. It has to do with benefits associated with people, with veterans having problems being exposed to toxic substances. So our speaker is going to be Fabian Grabstein, and he is the Deputy Senior Health Officer at the VA. So that's Monday, December the 4th at 9:30 in this room. So thank you for coming, and thank all of you, for the choir in particular, and the staff for making this possible. And thank you for spending some Saturday with us. So have a good day.